Most big cities feel chaotic, expensive, and hard to live in, but people move to Charlotte and suddenly everything just feels a little bit easier. So, what is it that Charlotte is doing differently in how it's built? Because once you see it, once you experience it, you're going to realize that most cities are designed completely wrong. So today we're talking about why does Charlotte feel easier? How does it feel easier? And is it actually well designed, or does it just like feel that way? And also, most importantly, what makes the city actually feel easy to live in versus something that just has a lot of friction. It doesn't feel like a natural fit. So let's start with first, what does well designed actually mean, and then again we'll get into the reasons of why I think it's one of the best cities in the U.S. And I'm saying this as somebody that was also super skeptical. So for those of you that don't know, I was in corporate America. I was a robotics engineer for a subsidiary of Toyota. I spent almost a decade working to get that job, and it was 100% travel. I loved it. Great team. And I got to travel all over, and they sent me to a lot of random cities. I got to sample a lot of different states, a lot of different cities, Charlotte being one of them. And I remember I was about to just like kick and scream because I did not want to come to Charlotte. I was convinced it was backwoods, there was nothing here, and I was getting sent here only because I was the new guy on my team and nobody else wanted to come here. And whether that's true or not, what I can tell you is that I'm very glad that they sent me here, and I've been very, very happy during my time here. There's obviously no city's perfect. There's some things I really do not like about this place as well. I've covered that in other videos. But, very important, big but, is there are a lot of things I really like about it. And I really do believe that this is a pretty well-designed city. And I'm gonna tell you exactly what I mean by that and break down how so? So I feel like I'm actually gonna, because I do these all the time, right? Well, Celsius too. I meant the live streams, but gotta crack this real quick, as is customary, so that I can bring all the energy in the sauce, all the insights for you. Refreshing. So, I feel like a lot of people, when they hear about something being well designed, they're thinking it's pretty, it's iconic, it's timeless. It's something like, the Empire State Building. It's something like the Chrysler Building in, in Chicago, I think. And while that may be true to a certain extent, like, the Bank of America building is certainly timeless and very iconic here in Charlotte. But that's not what I'm talking. I'm not talking about architecture. I'm not talking about even aesthetic, even though Charlotte is a very aesthetic city and has a lot of very aesthetic little neighborhood spots here. No, what I'm talking about is, what does daily life here, the daily lifestyle, feel like day to day, and what actually affects your daily life here. So we're talking movement, space, access, and really just like what are the functional components? What are the functional pieces of the city that you interact with on a daily basis that either add to your quality of life, your lifestyle, or take away from them? And so we're going to break apart a few different aspects of the city to answer that question, and again, why I think that it is a pretty well-designed city, and especially for how much growth we've gotten over the last couple of decades, the last 4 or 5 decades. It's held up surprisingly well, and I expect it to continue. So the first thing I want to talk about here is old cities versus new cities, because when you look, like, was Charlotte built for today, or did it just like accidentally work? Like, what makes it truly different from other cities? So, if you look at a lot of the oldest cities, most of them are on the East Coast. There's not nearly as much history on the West Coast as there is on the East Coast. Places like New York, Boston, Jersey, Philly, like all have a very deep, long-lasting history that goes back, well before even when the U.S. became a country, got our independence, and so you can see and feel that in how the cities are laid out, how the neighborhoods are laid out. Things that are just kind of weird. That when you learn the history, it's like, oh, there's not a building here, or there is the specific building that doesn't kind of fit in because there was some tavern here 400 years ago that didn't want to sell to a developer. And then you see, I mean, to be fair, you see that in Charlotte too. Just you see that the modern version of that. What's the name of that? I'm gonna pull this up because I feel like it's educational. Educational on a Thursday. Bar. I know exactly where it is, but I can't remember the name. Saloon. Thirsty Beaver famously refused to sell its property despite high cash offers from developers, resulting in a 323-unit apartment complex that was built around this small dive bar in Plaza. Here we go. Let me screen share this. That's what it looks like with the they just literally built the apartment complex around it. It's kind of funny, but also it's so iconic, and honestly, it adds a lot of character to the neighborhood because the contrast between the apartment building and then the Thirsty Beaver Saloon is like, it really is kind of almost comedic, and it's just one of those little pieces of Charlotte history that I think is really cool. Anyways, so that was my tangent. When you look at a lot of the older cities, there are things about how the buildings are laid out, how the streets are laid out, that it's just not everything was built with cars in mind. It's a lot tighter. It's a lot more dense. There's a lot more people, but there's also a lot more friction that comes with that too. And Charlotte, even though we do have a lot of really deep, rich history going all the way back to, the 1600s, right? Actually, one of my fun facts. Do you know why the Charlotte NBA team is called the Charlotte Hornets? It's because you go all the way back to the English. I forget who it was, but one of the generals had gone down and was supposed to basically put out some sort of an uprising in Charlotte, and came down here, and everybody was pissed as hell and let them know it. And there was all sorts of I think gunfire exchanged. It was a whole thing. Anyways, and his report back to the king was that it was like a nest of hornets, a nest of angry hornets. And so, to this day, Charlotte is known as, the Charlotte Hornets. Or even the Queen City, right? Because Charlotte, as the name, was, it was one of the king's wives, I believe. Let's look this up. We're doing a history lesson today. Charlotte, let's say, Hornets name origin. Here, we're gonna get specific, Originates from American Revolutionary War, referencing British General Lord Cornwallis, who described the city as a hornet's nest of rebellion due to intense resistance from local residents, and then eventually became the fan vote to name the NBA team in the 80s. Interesting. Hornets name had already been used for a minor league baseball team and a World league team. I got the hiccups. Any national authorities for basketball. That sounds like AI slop, but interesting. Okay, so there's that, and then the other thing we were going to look up was what was the other thing we were going to look up? We were going to look up the. This is why I need my coffee. It was the other Charlotte. Oh yeah, Charlotte city name origin. Okay, here we go. This is one of my other favorite little pieces of lore. Charlotte, North Carolina was named in 1768 to honor Queen Charlotte Sophia of Mecklenburg-Strelitz, the wife of King George III of Great Britain. Settlers named the town in her honor to show loyalty and encourage the colonial legislature to establish a county seat and courthouse in the area. Actually, fun fact too, if you, I went down a huge rabbit hole on this one day. If you go all the way back on that story, it says to honor the queen. That's like partially true, or it was also because the settlers and residents of the local area were kind of trying to gaslight the king into their favor at the time, and or rather gaslight the king into getting themselves in his favor at the time. Which is how, because at least when I read this for the first time, I was like, okay, but that doesn't make sense because wasn't it a hornet's nest of resistance? It was all kind of happening around the same time, and this was them being political in a delicious way to then get enough leeway to then be able to do whatever they wanted. I love this sort of stuff. Actually, if you are also a history buff, drop it down in the comments if you got fun Charlotte lore that you can drop to expand or maybe correct some of the things that I will say that are maybe directionally correct but not 100% accurate. I like to remember the gist of things. Anyways, all that to say, Charlotte has a lot of history, but it also is it's relatively new. Like if you look at photos or time lapses of aerial imagery over the past 30 years, what you see is the city honestly has like become a real city in the last 20-30 years. And there's a little bit of stuff here, 20 years ago or longer ago, but there wasn't that much. It was relatively small. Like to put this in perspective, let's say Charlotte population 2000. In 2000, the population here was 540,000. And so in the last 25 years, it has 5x, maybe more than that. Like it's grown so much because if you take the full metro area population now, it's like close to 3 million. So there's been this insane growth over the last, not that many years. Because, to put this in perspective, I remember I grew up in Indianapolis. And Indianapolis, if you've ever been there ain't much going on. So in 2000, Indianapolis was larger. It had a population of 780,000. So I remember coming here on vacation, maybe like 2005, 2006 with my parents. And just being like, I didn't even know there were cities that were smaller than Indianapolis. But it was pretty small. And so there was, in a very short time, literally in the last 2 decades, just in the time that I've been able to, with my own eyes, even as an outsider, kind of see the growth, or I guess outsider turned very much insider, it has grown so very much. And so because of that, a lot of the infrastructure, a lot of the city planning, a lot of the layout, a lot of the highway systems, a lot of the public transportation decisions, like so many different pieces and parts of things that you see and feel in both how you get around, but also in the places that you go and the things that you do, are like brand spanking new. Which takes me to the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is movement and driving. I already kind of touched on this a little bit, but we'll expand just a tad here. So I mentioned all the development, all the things that have been built here. What I did not mention is the fact that everything, like, you have to drive everywhere here. We really don't have that much public transportation. We have a little bit of the light rail that goes from, let me pull it up here. Here we go. This still doesn't show as well as I would like, though. Let's find the map. Maybe. Wait, did somebody take the one that we did and then use it? Interesting. Open image, new tab. Let's see. Here we go. There it is. So, maybe if I can scroll or zoom in a little bit more. Won't let me zoom in anymore. So, it's kind of hard to see, but it goes, so the blue line goes from like Pineville area up to University. There's talks, I got to look at the finalized map because I know that they prioritize some of these. So, like, for instance, the red line is actually going to be going further up for sure. I think Matthews is not going to end up because this is a year old. I made a video on this. It was the walkable neighborhoods video. But the Silver Line's not going to quite make it to Matthews. Matthews was pissed about that because Mooresville is in Iredell. But I think it used to be in Mech. I think there was some sort of an exchange where they agreed to take over part of it. So I kind of understand why they, and plus just from like a traffic and usage perspective, it will benefit a lot of people to connect Mooresville for people that are commuting down. More so than Matthews. But anyways, that was also some drama recently. But like we have a little bit of light rail, the blue line, and then we're expanding. It's already approved and funded, so it's going to happen. We're adding a lot more public transportation. But that said, it's not great right now. You have to drive everywhere, and especially what we've seen is just like the city as a whole has gotten a lot more traffic in recent years, and there's some things that they've done to help alleviate that. Like, for instance, they added optional toll lanes. There's still free lanes, but optional toll lanes on the southern part of 485. And so there's progress being made, and a lot of the design has been recent. But that said, also the city has grown faster than I think anybody really predicted, and so as a result, even though it still is very well done, well designed, and I'm saying this as an engineer, like my background again is robotics engineering and automated systems engineering. So I have a lot of friends that are civil engineers. I love civil engineering. I almost became a civil engineer. I decided not to because I like more hands-on stuff, less just designing and desk drafting of bridges and road layouts and things. But I know something about it, and I definitely follow it. And I have a lot of friends that are civies, or civil engineers. And so Charlotte's done pretty well. It can do a lot better. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, so we'll keep pushing. I'm gonna actually stand up to keep going because I am feeling like I need to get some movement. Also, isn't this the cutest jacket? My mom got me this for Christmas, I believe. The little Patagonia. Miss my mom. Can't wait to see her. I'm gonna go visit her and my parents here in a couple of months, or no, weeks. Brain. Also, I'm gonna move my camera up a little bit. Let's see. There we go. That should be better. There it is. Alrighty. So, let's see. Space and layout. Okay, we talked about movement and driving. Let's talk about space and layout next. So, Charlotte does feel very sprawling, very open, very spread out. Depending on where you're coming from, you're either going to notice it right away or you're really not. But when you do notice it, it's hard to unsee. So we have a lot less density, more space compared to other cities. Again, like larger lots, and you can be pretty close to the city with a pretty substantial lot without spending that much money. One of my favorite things is like there's so many parks spread out throughout the city, and so you see this in terms of like all the different neighborhoods have their own parks. There's lots of places, lots of activities, things to do all over the city, and I just haven't seen any other city that has this many greenways, walking trails, parks, all that sort of stuff. And so it's just, I love it. Like, I love how clean and green the city is. And I honestly could not imagine living somewhere that doesn't have so many parks, so many options, so many places you can go out and get outside, so many activities. They have intramural sports here where you can, play softball or soccer, kickball. I think they got flag football. There's a really big tennis league here, a big pickleball league here. There's so many different ways you can get outside, get some sunshine, and just enjoy all the space and the just the outdoors, the great weather here, because it's one of the big draws to the city. Now, I will say, excuse me. Because it is pretty sprawling, depending on what your lifestyle is like and what sort of amenities and things that you want to go see. The one downside to this is that you will sometimes have to drive a decent amount and go pretty far in order to, it's the way I explain it is the pro of Charlotte is everything's about 20 minutes away. The con is everything's about 15 to 20 minutes away. So you can get almost anywhere and do almost anything in about 15 to 20 minutes. But to do almost anything, you have to drive about 15 to 20 minutes. If you pick a strategic location to live, you can do everything within 10 to 15. For your day-to-day stuff, like for groceries and little shopping and everything, it's pretty easy to have everything within 5 to 10 minutes. Like for me, I don't live anywhere particularly fancy because that's not my season of life yet. But just to give you an idea, like I can go to a nice grocery store in about 3 minutes. I can go to a couple of other nice grocery stores if I need more options in about 6 to 8 minutes. And I can run probably 80 to 90% of the errands that I need to within a 10 to 12 minute radius. And I'd say that's pretty typical. But if I want to be able to go see friends and go do activities, it's like, again, depending on traffic and where I'm headed, anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. I want to go to a sporting event, 15 to 20 minutes. I want to be able to go to the lake, 25 minutes. I want to be able to go out to a nice restaurant for dinner, depending on what I want. If I'm feeling one of the restaurants that are closer to me, I can be there in 10 or 12 minutes. If I'm not, if I'm feeling something that's a little bit further away, it might be 25 minutes to go to one of the restaurants that I really like. My favorite steakhouse, they have two different locations. It is Epic Chop House. My favorite location is the one up in Morrisville, which for me is about, I want to say 30 minutes, especially, oh, excuse me, depending on traffic. And yeah, it's just like the little things like that, it adds up, and there's no real easy way around it. So that covers space and layout. Next, we're going to talk about some of the small things that just, I think, make life really easy here, and a few of the ones that I wish we had. Give me 1 second. I'm going to step away for 1 second just to grab my backpack, and I'll be right back. Oh. All right, there we are. So, some of the small things. Let's talk about parking. So, many areas in Charlotte have pretty decent parking. It is not going to be someplace equivalent to someplace like DFW, because I feel like DFW is nothing but parking. But also, to be fair, I feel like you have to drive an hour to get anywhere in DFW, and that's not the case here. Especially, like, Uber is really cheap here. And so sometimes I'll just Uber, because it's like you can either drive somewhere, maybe find street parking, maybe not. And depending on, especially if you're like in a dense part of uptown, it's like, okay, well, depending if you're there for a few hours, it might be $20 for parking. Or you can just spend like $9 to Uber there, $9 to $10 to Uber back. So, sometimes I don't even bother parking, because it's so easy to just not park. For errands, there's a lot of little shopping centers and things that have, like, for instance, there's one by my house where I do probably 70% of my errands all in one shopping plaza. And so, again, for me, like, oh, excuse me, I know I can do almost all my errands literally within one parking lot. And so I schedule it out. And then when I have other errands I need to run to other locations, I schedule that out separately. And when you're looking at, again, getting food, running to grab groceries, commuting to work, that sort of things, all your daily travel, daily commutes, unless you are there's a few spots where the traffic is really bad, but it's honestly almost like you have to, like, damn near plan it in order to have a bad commute. And so it's very easy to have anywhere from a 5-minute to a 20-minute commute or less, and it just takes a little bit of planning, honestly. And so in my experience, Charlotte, like a lot of the small bits of friction that you get in your day-to-day life, Charlotte just doesn't have in the best way possible. It makes it really simple. And for me, I value simplicity. I value ease. Those are things, particularly as I've started to step into my career and have a little bit more discretionary income. Like, time is so valuable, man, because we just don't get that much of it on this planet. And so I try to make the most of every single day, every single second. And a lot of it comes up in small ways of, like, you're not doing something big or crazy to try to make the most of the time. It's just like trying to eliminate friction and negatives that are small but recurring and just keep adding up. And that's really how I think about it. So for me personally, it's something big, very, very important to me, especially for living somewhere for the long term. So enough about the easy life effect. Let's talk about how all these different parts and pieces compare to each other. What are the trade-offs? Because one of the questions I get is, if it's so well designed, why do some people not like it? Why do, close to half of people that make a relocation move end up regretting it? And so, for every city, a little bit different, but for Charlotte, we do not have that much walkability or like direct access without a car. And so this is one of the things that, especially for people coming from New York, excuse me, especially for people coming from New York, Philly, Pitt, some of the more dense, even Chicago, some of the more dense cities. If you're expecting it to have a lot of that dense walkability, that's just not how we do it here, because you're driving everywhere. You have to have a car, and it's it can feel pretty sprawling living here, and for me personally, again, I love the people here. The people here are so sweet and so nice. So there's some things that just like make up for any sort of negatives in that respect, in my opinion. But in terms of how easy it is, how well designed it is, there's just a lot of infrastructure that might even be well designed. It's just the city as a whole has grown so fast that the city leadership is constantly trying to play catch up and prioritize to be fiscally responsible, but also provide really good infrastructure. And so, I guess one other thing I'll say too is, because the city has grown so quickly, we have started, and the key word is we have started, to attract more investment from like entertainment and clubs and restaurants and more of the lifestyle and entertainment kind of venues. We still got a long way to go. So it is very easy to live here. That said, depending on how antsy you are, sometimes it may feel a wee bit boring, depending on how overstimulated that you want to be all the time. And so there are things you're going to give up. So let's talk about who Charlotte really works for the best, because it's not for everybody. The people that thrive best in the city here are people that are looking for really, really great lifestyle. They are not looking to be out clubbing every night. They might like to do that and want to be able to do that when they feel like it, but it's not like a 2 to 4 nights a weekend kind of city. It's like one night a week or one night every couple of weeks kind of city. And you can have a great time. Again, we have a phenomenal bar scene. It's just not like, we're very limited in terms of clubs and, like big music venues. And so if you are somebody that likes to go, you like to never stop, you're constantly, you just like to be stimulated with things to do all the time, this may not be the right place for you. You might feel kind of limited here. And I mean, really, it comes down to personality. Like, we have a lot of very, I called them left brain careers, like the logical, your bankers and finance and engineering, consulting, accounting, those kind of roles. People like that love it here because we have a ton of STEM or STEM adjacent careers here. And also stage of life. If you are looking for something that is going to be that pulsing Miami, New York, San Francisco kind of energy, go there. Don't come here, because you're going to be underwhelmed most likely. But again, if you are looking for that livability lifestyle, it's a really hard city to beat from that respect. And so if you're coming from a really dense city, just know you're going to probably be understimulated here. If you're moving from a small town or a even substantially smaller city, like maybe a C-list city, just know like this is a real city. So you're gonna definitely gonna probably feel maybe overstimulated. A lot of people like that tend to prefer to live out in the suburbs. And I mean, regardless of where you're coming from, it still is the same city. It's just you're going to have a very different experience depending on the lifestyle that you are used to. and the lifestyle that you are looking for. So, overall, is it really well designed? I would say it is insanely well designed for what it is, if it is what you're looking for, and pretty perfectly designed for that kind of lifestyle where you value having some convenience, reasonable cost of living, and you're looking for a city that's going to have great weather, lots of open space, good accessibility but not too dense, and also good space but not too sprawling. It's a happy medium in just about every single way. And if you are like, this sounds all well and good, I know there's probably something for me here, but I'm overwhelmed by the 250 plus neighborhoods, suburbs, and areas that I could choose to live in, because I've heard how they're all so different. And there's just, a lot that goes into deciding where I want to live. And I feel like it's difficult to watch hundreds of videos on YouTube to find the right spot. You're not alone. I've done hundreds of one-on-one consults, and I took all of my learnings from those, packaged them up in a nice, neat little 7-question quiz. Takes less than 30 seconds. It will narrow down to just a handful of options you can do more research on to start fast-tracking your research process. You can scan the code over there or tap the link down in the description below to go check that out. It's free, it's fast, and it's freaking awesome. And I put a lot of time into it just for you. Go check that out. And if you'd like to connect with me, ask me questions, whatever else, send me a DM at Lucas Roller, just like my name, at Lucas Roller on Instagram. I answer all my own messages, and I'm excited to chat with you too. Between now and the next video, go watch the next video, and I'll see you in the next one, and hope to show you around Charlotte, North Carolina.